people don't know what I look like until now. Until they start going to the movies. They're gonna see my face. Big deal.
Yo, what's good? OmgHawk, OneManGang, back at y'all with another one.
2023, he trying to offer me the fair one. I told him it was lit, then I shot him with a flare gun. I guess. What?
You know, I hope everyone is well as always. Spring season is in effect. I hope everyone enjoyed or is enjoying their spring break properly. You know, my birthday will be just a few days after this drop, so shout out to me and all the April babies present. If you made it here for the first time, I appreciate you stopping by. If you end up liking the video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and I'll keep them coming. If you're a returning viewer or a subscriber already, I especially appreciate you. Y'all the true goats, and y'all already know the details in today's video are disturbing and viewer discretion is advised. Alright, let's get right to it. The events in today's video bring us to a city that I couldn't wait to cover. The city of brotherly love, officially known as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philly is the largest city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with a population of about 1.6 million people, making it the 6th largest city in the country by population. Philly is a little less than a 2-hour drive south from New York City and just about a half-hour drive north of Wilmington, Delaware. Now, my returning viewers already know how I feel about this beautiful cityscape and skyline over the water. Camden provides some beautiful views of Philadelphia's skyline as the two cities are separated by the Delaware River. Now, Philadelphia is fortunate enough, in my opinion, to have two of the dopest suspension bridges in the country. The Ben Franklin Bridge, crossing the river from Camden directly into downtown Philly, and the Walt Whitman Bridge, crossing from Gloucester City into South Philly. Both awesome viewpoints of the city's skyscrapers, lights, and boats on the water. Founded by William Penn in 1682, Philly has been home to many landmark moments in American history, credited with being the birthplace of the American Revolution and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Philly was actually our nation's capital before the construction of Washington, D.C. Now, world famous for cheesesteak, Rocky films, and Will Smith among countless other legends.
5-time NBA champion, a 6'6" guard from Lower Merion High School, where he won the title in 1996. Number 24, Kobe Bryant.
Philly's definitely a city that breeds greatness. Now, as pivotal as Philly is to national history, the real reason I'm excited to talk about Philly is when it comes to hip-hop, Philadelphia has been putting on since its inception, always innovating and never emulating. In fact, the world's first documented graffiti writer was Philly's own Cornbread. And besides being first, Philly has some of the most unique graffiti hand styles that go absolutely nuts. NM, King Cad, nobody did it like Philly. Graffiti was soon spread to New York and other major cities, eventually growing into what it's become today. And in my personal opinion, when it comes to rapping, like for real rapping, real rap, Philly got it. We could talk battle rap, making songs, straight barring out beats. Philly has always set the bar high. The cadences, the dogfight energy, the hunger. Most of my personal favorite spitters is from Philly. Gotta salute Ness.
Solomon, how many swords you been swallowing? Let me find out it's my name you been hollering. Cut off his oxygen. Sugar Ray Robinson or Allen Allison. Cross him out as Wally Moccasin.
Battle rap legends still out here cooking. And Rocky.
You on my top about your nut ass, always acting tough ass, never had no paper, straight bum ass, nigga that you fuck with. Shorty, get the fuck on, rock me on some dumb shit, not the shit that you want. I'm beefing with some old bum bitch around the way drunk. Next time we beef up.
Yo, I love Rocky style. Rocky will outbar a whole lot of y'all, male, female, whoever. Shit. Even in today's new wave of culture, Philly still holds weight as some of the best podcasters and personalities in the game hail from and still put on for the city. Now, unfortunately, with the resurgence of the good, also comes the not so good. Many major cities in America have seen an increase in poverty and violent crime in recent years, but quite frankly, Philly been on some other shit. In 2021, they reported a record high 561 homicides, followed by a just as outrageous 516 homicides in 2022, with a reported 3,622 non-fatal shootings in those 2 years. Philly has always been known as a rough city, but now through platforms like YouTube and various other news media outlets, the toll that the violence and recent opioid epidemic have had on Philadelphia is on full display. Today's video is going to be a little different, as we're not so much focused on one specific event, more so what might be a phenomena of crime centered on one particular subway line, which might just be the most dangerous public transportation route in America today. The Broad Street line is a subway train line, also known locally as the Orange Line, due to its color coding on the Philadelphia transit system map and corresponding color markings on the train cars. Owned by the city and operated by the Southeast Philadelphia Transit Authority, or SEPTA, the Broad Street line runs pretty much the entire length of Broad Street from the Fern Rock Transportation Center in North Philly, making about 20 stops all the way down to the NRG station on Patterson Avenue in South Philly, about a block or two away from all the stadiums. The Broad Street line is the second busiest route in the Philadelphia transit system, with an average of about 115,000 boardings on an average weekday. On March 30th, 2023, at around 9:30 p.m., highway patrol officers on duty in South Philly heard gunfire coming from the Snyder Avenue station and quickly responded.
Shooting took place on a SEPTA subway platform. The scary ordeal unfolded at the Snyder Avenue station along the Broad Street line. 2 people were wounded in the violence in South Philadelphia last night, and we learned more about the victims overnight. However, the motive remains unclear.
Now, this was the most recent act of violence on the Orange Line that made headlines. But with a quick search, it's apparent that unfortunate events are a common occurrence on the Broad Street SEPTA train, especially in recent years. Here's a timeline of some of the most horrific crimes and incidents that went down on the Broad Street line, only dating back as far as last year, 2022, through present day, or April of 2023. On January 13, 2022, a female passenger was being harassed by a 34-year-old man during the train ride when a Good Samaritan intervened and confronted her harasser. My fault.
Argument on board a SEPTA train led to a shooting this afternoon in North Philadelphia. Investigators say a disagreement between a man and a woman spilled out onto the platform at Broad and Lehigh. A third person intervened on behalf of the woman, shooting the 34-year-old man 2 times.
The Good Samaritan was licensed to carry and cooperated with the investigation, while the harasser was taken to the hospital to get his wounds treated. No word on any charges being filed for either party involved. On April 24th, 2022, a woman contacted police and reported that she had been indecently assaulted while riding the Broad Street line in between the Erie and Girard stops. Police and paramedics responded and provided aid to the distressed victim. She told detectives she knew the man, as the two had been exchanging text messages earlier in the day and had agreed to link up for some type of sexual activity. At some point, the woman wasn't with it, and the man proceeded to assault her while on the moving train. She gave his identity to investigators, and doubts about her consent were minimized when they discovered that 28-year-old Quintez Adams was indeed a nasty freak bowl. According to news reports, just weeks prior to this incident on April 4th, 2022, Quintez while seated in a cubicle at the adult probation office on Market Street. The following day, his probation officer requested that his probation be revoked. Quintez was eventually located and arrested on April 21st, 2022. He was brought to a hospital for evaluation due to injuries he sustained from some individuals who recognized him and beat the brakes off him before contacting police. It was later reported in July 2022 that the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office was dismissing the rape charges against Quintez for the April 24th incident on the Orange Line, stating that the investigation didn't support the initial charges or account relayed by law enforcement at the time. Quintez wasn't off the hook, though. The DA did indict him on new charges related to 2 separate incidents involving minors. Last word, Quintez was in custody on a $1.3 million bond awaiting trial. On January 18th, Philadelphia police received another report of an indecent assault, this time at the Snyder Avenue station.
Philadelphia police have released some surveillance pictures of a man that they say is wanted for woman at gunpoint in a SEPTA station. Investigators saying it all happened earlier this morning while the suspect forced the victim's boyfriend to watch this.
Our survivor was with a boyfriend of hers. We know that she was trying on some clothes, and they were down there. You don't see anybody else in the video. And then our offender arrives at the scene. Pointed the gun at the boyfriend and put the gun at the back of our survivor, and then proceeded to demand that sex.
Now, this one was especially bad. With help from the public, police identified and arrested 20-year-old Namir Thomas only 3 days later for this horrible incident. He was charged with indecent sexual intercourse, robbery, and other related offenses. No word on conviction status, and he's still presumed innocent until proven guilty and all that. On June 2nd, 2022, police were called to the scene of another violent crime, this time at the Fairmount station.
Philadelphia police say a fight escalated into a violent stabbing this evening at the SEPTA Fairmount station on the Broad Street line. Happened at around 7 o'clock. Police say 2 teenagers and an adult got into a fight on the train. When they got off, surveillance video shows the adult pulled out a knife and stabbed one of the teenagers on the platform. The 17-year-old is in stable condition at this hour. The search continues for the knife-wielding man who fled the scene.
Now, only 2 days after the stabbing at Fairmount, on June 4th, 2022,
there has been yet another violent encounter on SEPTA. A man was shot in the chest on the North Broad Street subway station earlier today.
The latest incident, a shooting, unfolded this afternoon just before 3 o'clock. According to police, it was an argument that started between the victim and the suspect at the corner of North Broad and Susquehanna. The two then made their way down the subway platform where officers found at least 10 shell casings. Authorities say the victim was shot in the chest before he made his way back up to the sidewalk where he then collapsed to the ground.
The victim was transported to the hospital in critical condition, but there were no further reports on his condition or whether or not any suspects were identified or arrested. Now, on the night of September 26, 2022, this man was out on a nasty spree. At around 10:30 p.m., a 22-year-old woman was waiting on the Broad Street train at the City Hall platform when she first noticed the man following her. She said he entered the train at the same time she did. When she sat down, the man stood over her and forcibly touched her before leaving without saying a word. A short time later, the same man approached a 40-year-old woman at the Tasker Morris station and asked her for a cigarette. She kindly gave the man a bogey when he then turned around and asked her for a kiss. When she said no, the man grabbed her by her waist, pulling her against him, forcibly kissing and groping on the woman. Thankfully for her, an inbound train interrupted his savagery and the man ran off. After surveillance images of the suspect were released to the media, 25-year-old Raymond Nunez turned himself in to police and was charged with stalking, harassment, and indecent assault. His case, like all the others mentioned in this video, are still pending at this time. On the morning of October 20th, 2022, at around 8 a.m., a 15-year-old girl got on the Broad Street line at the Obley station on her way to school. A man tried to talk to the teen girl, but she ignored his advances. When she exited the train at the Ridge Spur station, the man followed her off, grabbed her, and attempted to indecently assault her underneath a stairwell right on the platform. She managed to fight her attacker off and make it to the street above the platform before the man cornered her a second time, forced her into a nearby apartment, and indecently assaulted her. She was let go after the attack and contacted police, who started their investigation, releasing a description to the public and investigating the apartment where the assault took place. Now, sadly, the following morning, October 21st,
developing tonight, predators targeting teen girls. Police are investigating 2 separate sex attacks, both in the morning, as the victims were heading to school.
A 13-year-old girl on her way to school got off the Broad Street line at Ray Street when she was approached by a man claiming he had a gun. He threatened the girl and forced her into a nearby parking garage stairwell where he assaulted her. Now, after the attack, the man walked the young girl to school where she reported what happened to her. Investigators believe the same individual was responsible for both assaults, considering the similarities in both crimes as well as the similar descriptions of the suspect. We would later learn that after the second assault, the suspect forced a 13-year-old girl to give him her phone number, and the individual actually called and texted the victim later in the day. Police were able to trace the phone to a 24-year-old Quadir Jones. He was quickly arrested and charged with kidnapping, robbery, and other offenses related to the second attack. The last available information I could find only names Quadir as a person of interest in the first attack, and I'm not sure if he's been charged for that crime. He was in custody at the time of the report, and the Commonwealth was asking for a $5 million bond in this case. On November 7th, 2022, 21-year-old Samaj Cherry boarded the Broad Street line at Broad Street in Olney at 2:42 p.m. Moments later, another man, later identified as 16-year-old Rasheen Bourne, boarded the train at Broad Street and Susquehanna Avenue. Rashid allegedly pulled a firearm and attempted to rob Samaj. A struggle ensued and Samaj was shot 11 times on the moving train. Samaj, armed with his own pistol, managed to get a shot off, wounding Rasheen in his arm. As the train stopped at Fairmount and Broad, Rasheen fled on foot while Samaj bled out in the subway car. He was transported to the hospital from the Fairmount stop, where he tragically succumbed to his injuries at 3:03 p.m. Rasheen was actually driven to the hospital by police, and they initially thought he was an innocent bystander until closer review of the surveillance video. Rasheen was arrested and charged with murder and related offenses and is awaiting trial at present time. On February 7th, 2023, a man was stabbed in the neck after a fight on the Broad Street line southbound platform at Girard Station. The man fled on foot down the train tracks and was seen exiting at the Cecil B. Moore station. The victim suffered non-life-threatening injuries, and there was no mention of the suspect ever being identified or apprehended. On March 8th at around 11 p.m., there was a wild brawl involving a herd of youth on the Orange Line near Logan Station.
Officials say their officers are now using this video to investigate a stabbing on the Broad Street line over the weekend around 11 o'clock Saturday night. Video shows what appears to be mostly juveniles who packed this subway train when SEPTA police say a 16-year-old was stabbed in the stomach and leg near the Logan Station in North Philadelphia.
Philadelphia police tell me they did arrest a 46-year-old man in connection to the stabbing of that 16-year-old. They have not said what charges he...
The 46-year-old man was arrested, but the charges were withheld from the public pending further investigation into his self-defense claims. And it's not just the habitual yeek snatchers and the youngins with the switches on the Glocks you gotta beware of when riding the Broad Street line. The train itself be catching wreck too. On March 10th, 2023, at around 6:30 a.m., an unidentified man was struck by the train at the North Broad Street and West Lee Avenue station. He was transported to Temple University Medical Center with a head injury. There was no further word on the man's condition. That will bring us to the March 30th, 2023 double shooting at the Snyder Avenue station that we originally covered. We soon learned that 29-year-old Saquon Osborne had gotten into a fight with his 30-year-old unidentified girlfriend, her 37-year-old unidentified ex-boyfriend, and a group of his friends on the platform of the station. Saquon allegedly pulled out a firearm and let off shots, hitting his girlfriend in the thigh and hitting her ex-boo in the back and the stomach. He fled the station on foot and tossed the firearm, but the close-by officers quickly located him and the weapon close to the scene. Saquon was charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, and other charges related to the shooting. Saquon and everyone else mentioned today have only been charged with the respective crimes and are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The safety concerns of SEPTA passengers has been an issue in the city for a long time, and it seems like any progress and response from the police department and transit authority hasn't been fast enough. SEPTA hired a bunch of unarmed security guards with bright shirts in response to the uptick in violence, but unfortunately the Broad Street line has still been plagued with problems. I hope that the police department, SEPTA, and the people find a resolution soon for the people's sake. First and foremost, my condolences to anyone directly affected by the loss of Samaj Cherry, and I extend my best wishes and thoughts to all the victims of the crimes highlighted today, as well as anyone that's ever been victimized or violated on the Broad Street line. I'm sure if you ask local Philadelphians, many will have a SEPTA horror story of their own. One has to wonder how it's even gotten to this point. Is it the most dangerous public transit route in Philly? Or is the Blue Line worse? Because I read some wild stuff about that Market Frankford Line too.
I saw a guy die on the L.
If you're still here, I really appreciate you. Let me know if you know a more dangerous train or bus route than this. Much love to the north, south, out west, everybody, you know what it is. Subscribe to the channel. Please stay well and stay safe. Until next time, OneManGang.